Okay, so I think we can talk a little bit just to check that everything is correct. How are you doing, Francis?
I'm great, thanks. Yeah, I'm actually looking at a wonderful sunset out my window right now.
Oh, I'm in a basement, so I'm hiding over
Oh,
there. Okay, I think we're good. Perfect. Okay, we're good. We're having a really good uh, time. Okay, I put back the music and then we'll start shortly. I just have to finish the Facebook thing and the Instagram thing.
sure.
Okay, we're good. We're having a really good time. Okay, I put back the music and then we'll start shortly. I just have to finish the Facebook thing and the Instagram thing. Okay, we're good. Okay, social media good. Cleaning my windows here. Okay. Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's do that then. Welcome tonight for the Art Stars. Tonight is a special one. Last Sunday, Sue Popescu that you see over there. Sue Popescu passed away, and she was really the one who studied the Art Stars. We're going to have something special for her later on. First, we have to deal with the shock, and then we're going to pay respect. And we have a memorial at the North Peace Cultural Center with flowers. If you want to come, that's where it is. Tonight we have Francis Obie. Hello, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks. Pleased to be here.
So, how is it with COVID-19?
Oh, well, to be honest, my lifestyle hasn't changed that much. As artists tend to be solitary creatures anyway. So the day-to-day, things that I do, practicing artwork and working in my studio, all of that is pretty much the same as ever. Certain things, of course, have changed. Like we don't go out in the evening. We don't go see friends and all that. But there's other things. Fortunately, artwork provides a lot in times like this.
Yeah, and I was wondering if a time like this will actually be good for creating, or is it would be an inspiration, or would be more like working on whole project?
Oh, it's times like this. It is a great thing because there's no distractions. We have to focus, and the atmosphere is very conducive towards focusing, pursuing an art project, seeing it through to completion, even working on several things at the same time. It's the atmosphere, the quiet, for me anyway, is a wonderful thing.
Nice.
So there's a lot of upsides.
So something that happened that COVID-19 and those restrictions, we had to close the North Peace Cultural Center, but we had to close at a bad time because soon enough you had something planned. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I was supposed to have a show opening on April the 3rd. It was a solo show called Sky High, and it was to be opening in the Peace Gallery North. However, it couldn't be because we couldn't meet. It was quite clear a few weeks beforehand that the event could not happen. So I decided to create an online show. So all the paintings that would have been in the physical show are now online. And there's descriptions of all the paintings. My statement for the show is also up. So all the material is there.
So why don't you go and have a little look? So I won't show everything tonight, but I will explain you how to go on that website and take your time to just immerse you in that presentation. So here we are. So that is the website, and we'll go back to that later. So the idea right now is those are your painting, and I'll take that opportunity to ask you a question and to ask you, please, can you tell me what I'm looking at, what kind of emotion you put on that painting, what are the things that it's represent for you, and also also because it's our stars and because we want to know what kind of difficulty it was for you to do that one and those ones.
Absolutely. Okay, that painting is called Prairie Twilight, and it measures 30 inches by 30 inches. It was done on a piece of birch. Birch is great to work on because it's so light, so it's a great surface. At any rate, as far as what the painting was about, it's actually a scene from Grand Prairie. And I was looking out and towards, I believe, the airport from a hotel window. And it was sunset. I could see pretty much what you see there as far as lights in the distance. There was some beautiful, dramatic cloud formations that were happening in the sky. And I really loved the way this little ditch ran along the base of the scene, which I could see from my window. And it seemed, as the ditch retreated into the distance, it seemed to point towards the little lights that were the airport. Now, when I developed this scene, it actually took me a long time to work on this. I started with different ideas, and I didn't come up with a way of, let's say, presenting this, or a way of communicating this picture. I wanted to show the strength of emotion that I saw in those skies. It's a sense that you get in prairie skies a lot. That's why I call it Prairie Twilight. But when you have a flat expanse before you, it can be very powerful when there's a sunset happening with a great deal of movement of cloud formations and the light slowly settling over the horizon. There's a strong mix of warm, cool tones, a variety of abstract elements that happen in the sky itself, and some wonderful movement. And this is what I wanted to capture here. And for me, it was a very inspirational kind of experience. It had a great deal of impact. It made me want to wait and see what was going to happen next. It was like a drama unfolding as the sun was setting. The colors were completely, I don't know, I did not plan it. The blues and violets that became the clouds, I guess it just happened as in contrast to the warm peaches and oranges and yellows that were happening in the horizon. But somehow the blues and the violets communicated the strength of emotion that I experienced watching this particular sunset. It's like nature saying, I am powerful. We should have done this yesterday on Earth Day, but there was such a strong presence that the sky held for me at that time.
So what did you do? Did you took a picture of it? Did you just sketch it?
I did take a picture. I took a picture of it, but it, as usually, what usually happens with these things, the picture was not very good. When you photograph skies, it was getting dark, so I don't know. The main shapes that you see there, I did recognize. I did have in from the photo. I've worked from that, but the colors, the movement of the sky, particularly the lower part of the sky, it just worked off of intuition for that.
Should we move on to the next room?
Sure. Yeah, that's a Charlie Lake scene. And it's another twilight scene. I believe that one's called Evening on Charlie Lake 2. could be. And with this one, I really enjoyed, it's from a scene where I did take pictures. However, what happened with this one, I worked off of the lines that I enjoyed watching of the landforms as they moved across the lower part of the scene. There's an undulation to the landforms, and the clouds seem to settle into those curves. And I enjoyed the way the water also created a sense of movement that was very harmonious with what the sky was doing and what the landforms were doing. So at any rate, it's a very magical time of the day in the summer, right when the sun is going down. So I tried to create a little dreamscape, so to speak, where it's partly real and perhaps partly something that was imagined. That was my goal.
We can see the reflection in the water. That is quite nice.
Yeah. We got stormy skies over Sweetwater Road. Yeah, lots of people should be familiar with this particular location. It's Highway 97 and Sweetwater Road. And there's a lovely field right there. And in the summertime, the canola grows there. At any rate, I was passing by one day and some storm clouds were starting to develop. And I got there was some very unusual forms happening. There was almost this monster type shape that was happening in the upper clouds. And the way and this is an example of the kind of drama that we have in the clouds in this region, which is absolutely wonderful. Just before a storm, you get this tremendous energy, and it's almost like the sky is ready to just shout something. It's so expressive. And this painting is quite small. It's only 12 inches high by 16. But I thought sometime maybe it could be bigger. I don't know. At any rate, the gold colors and the violet colors to me really communicated the passion that seemed to be in the sky at that time. And there were a lot of twists and curves and so much happening. It's skies just before a storm like that. They do seem to hold a lot of power, and you get that a lot around here. It's wonderful.
Do you remember how long you spent to that particular one?
On that painting, how long did I spend?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, maybe 3 or 4 days. Yeah.
Next one.
Oh, that is the one we just looked at, except framed.
Except it's framing. See? That one is framing. So let's move on. Is it the same? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, yes, this is just off of 272 Road. And I think it's called Approaching 272 Road. Now, this one was done on black sanded paper, not on board. And you can see the texture of the black coming through in places. And I really enjoy working on black paper for that reason. I allowed the skies to take on almost an abstract quality because the cloud formations really seem to lend themselves towards that. Now, I do a lot of allowing myself when I in my work. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But
Yeah.
um, you have to be willing to make mistakes, in order to make discoveries. Anyway, this is another yellow, violet, orange, blue um, color harmony. And it was a sunset, but a very active sunset. The clouds were moving. Um, the the upper part of the sky had that deeper blue and violet with the oncoming evening. The ground was the fields where I was driving were getting pretty dark. But around 272 Road and Alaska Highway, anywhere in that region, when the sun is setting, it can be such a magnificent sight. And I just allow myself to look for, again, these abstract shapes in the sky and allowed those shapes to develop. So I got some shapes in front, and I was trying for that sense of distance. And it's, again, an explosion of color, sunset.
Yeah,
Very
I can
powerful.
I can feel a storm coming with that
Yeah,
sky.
and we got another storm coming here. And here we have yes, this is definitely a storm coming. Now, this one was called Storm over Kempenfelt Bay. And so we've moved now to a totally different location in the country. Kempenfelt Bay is in Barrie, Ontario, central Ontario. And that is where I used to live before I moved here 7 years ago. Kempenfelt Bay is great. But there's a distinct difference in powerful skies there compared to here. You don't have the expanse that we have here, that sense that the sky goes on forever and ever. However, you have a great over the bay. There can be a great buildup vertically. So this was a vertical picture. So I don't think I've done any vertical pictures here since I left that area. However,
Right.
3 o'clock in the afternoon, you get all these clouds moving in. There was a totally sunny sky, sunshine everywhere, middle of the afternoon. Then these cloud formations move in, covering the sunny, puffy white clouds. And before you know it, the water goes dark, the landforms go dark. And a really big storm did blow up, but this is just before the storm. And so there was a lot of movement, again, a lot of power in the sky. I tried to communicate that through the tension in the clouds, opposing shapes. The light behind darker forms coming in front. Tried to get a sense of the wind blowing up and what that feels like.
So this is not the only painting that you have in the exhibition. So let me show you. When you go on Google, you go with Francis Obie. You have the first website, and then here that's just the page. You have the sky high. You have what, and you enter here the exhibition, the virtual exhibition, and there you can see. So on the screen, the little window is a little bit deformed. So you have to go by yourself, check it out, and see everything and see how everything is doing. You have 2 pages, and then you can go click on it, and then you'll have a little diaporama, and you have the price here, and you have more info. And I think I remember, it's funny, that one was one of my favorite too. And I think if we
If you
want to
click on
buy,
more info, you get all the information, the description of the picture. And
Exactly.
other photos, there's photos of the work framed as well.
Oh, and something very nice. I know it's on a lot of painting website, but you have the room, and you
Yeah,
can
view in a room, sure.
if you in the room, yeah, you can change. You can put in your office or something. That tells you a little bit how how big it is. So yeah, we have everything um, up. I will take that away. And so that is your exhibition, and we'll go back to our live screen. So this is the live exhibition. So that's something interesting for you. Do you have any feedback right now, or those people already went to that website and contacted you? Do you know?
No, I haven't. I haven't received any inquiries yet.
Okay.
So, but I do want people to know it's quite all right to make inquiries, to ask about purchasing. Everything is for sale, and if it's not going to be deterrent to the physical show when that
When we
may
are
happen
back.
down the road. You don't have to wait for the physical show. Pictures can be purchased now. And it'd be very good if pictures were purchased now, because the food bank gets a percentage of the sale. They get 30%.
So the food bank get 30% of the sale. That's a really nice gesture.
Yes.
So now we're going to go back to the usual, and I'm going to ask you, who is Francis Obie?
Well, I'm an artist. Um, I sort of fell into it. I was influenced by my father, who was a cartographer, which is now a dead profession, but he was also a painter in his spare time. My mother was an art teacher, so I grew up with art as a very ordinary thing that I took for granted. I was always doing it. People around me did it. I didn't even think about it being about it professionally until much later in life, after I grew up. After I got married, had children, it was time to come back and think about this again, because I missed. And so that's it. I am an artist. I'm a wife, a mother. All my relationships equal who I am. And my relationship with art is certainly a very important part of my life. These days, I am exploring subject matter which is around me. I tend to look up, so hence the title of the show, Sky High. I find a great deal of inspiration every day by looking at the skies. And so that's who I am. I look for inspiration. I look for meaning in my life constantly, and I tend to find it in indirect ways. I tend to find it through observing, watching what nature tells me, and trying to communicate that through art.
So is pastel your only way to communicate that? Do you have other? Do you paint? Do you? I know you did collage.
Yes, I've done a little bit of collage, playing around with different media. I do work with acrylic paints also,
Mhm.
and I often do an acrylic underpainting. If you remember the painting called Prairie Twilight with the big blue clouds,
Mhm.
the Grand Prairie scene, that painting had a lot of very large brush strokes in it, which I would not have been able to achieve if I'd tried to paint the picture just with pastel from the beginning. So I did do an underpainting with acrylic paint, with a large 4-inch brush. And that gave me a really nice basis on which I could then add the pastel. which gave it the intensity of color.
And so why pastel for the skies and for water?
Well, the pastels have a wonderful translucent quality. For me, when I came back to artwork, it was around the time that my father died. It was around 2006, and he had left me his set of pastels, a set of Rembrandts. So I started working with those. I really enjoyed them. Just working with them seemed to come naturally to me. And so I developed skills related to the pastels first. And that's mainly why. However, I don't think I would be able to achieve what I do with any other medium, because the pastels do, it's the effects are achieved by layering.
Mhm.
And allowing previous layers to show through. And I know a lot of artists do achieve that with paint. But for me, the pastel has a unique translucent quality that I don't think I'd be able to achieve in any other medium.
Exactly. And so your inspiration, so looking up, can you tell us a little bit more about that? And when is that moment that you say, oh, I am going to paint that, or this is going to be one of the painting?
That's a good question. I have found a lot of material for my paintings when I've been riding in a vehicle, well, to be precise, motorcycle. That's where most of the work started that you see in the show. And that's why there are paintings from all over, not just from this local area. But when you're riding a motorcycle, I don't know if you ride Batiste, but you feel very much in touch with your immediate surroundings. Yeah, you have to
Yeah.
feel very in touch with your immediate surroundings. You're right there. You're involved. For me as an artist, I get to a point where I feel like I'm part of the landscape. So I'm always studying, I'm always looking around me. And there will come a time where I see something that triggers sense of recognition, something that I feel an affinity with, something about the composition or the way the clouds are formed, or what's happening with the weather, whatever it is, it just speaks to me. And I take hundreds of pictures also when I'm writing, and out of these, I will bring one or two from a time where I really felt inspired, and out of those, then a picture will happen. Often it's several photos that result in one picture. But otherwise, it's same thing when I'm not riding. Like I can get very inspired by going to watch a sunrise down at Charlie Lake. There's just something about the way the sky speaks to me at any particular time, often early in the morning or late in the
Yeah.
evening. That is when the skies tend to be the most powerful. You know, and you lose a sense of time when that happens. You feel like you have this direct communication, and that you are very much a part of your surroundings, that you're involved in your surroundings, you're not separate from it. And that's inspiration, you know. Um, so it's those times that usually result in a painting.
And so when you paint, do you have a studio inside? Are you going outside? How is it going to? Because it seems like it's really important for you to be immersed in the nature and in the subject, basically. So are you taking that feeling inside with you and then you paint, or do you have to go outside somewhere, maybe around your house or whatever, and Oh, I have the nature around me, and that brings me those ideas.
I don't paint outside. I will sketch and take photos, and I will observe, but then I do most of my work in the studio. So
Mhm.
my studio is a room in my house.
Yeah.
Um, and well, by necessity, those pictures that were a result of motorcycle rides, of course, had to be done in the studio. It's just that's the way it had to work. So I work from memory and from photos in those situations. The memory, it's a funny thing that happens with memory. It's you don't need to be there to see and remember and feel what you saw and remembered and saw and felt at the time. Um, Certain things do change through memory and through time.
Mhm.
For me, often a little abstraction happens as a result of time having passed by, but that's okay. I don't mind. I like to work. I like to end up with a scene that is non-literal. So yeah, I work in the studio. Um,
Okay.
I don't need to have it in front of me, the scene in front of me, to represent, to communicate what I'm trying to communicate in any particular picture.
Gotcha. So you still have the picture that you took that, and you said that you can use maybe 5 or 7 pictures to just do one painting, right?
Yeah, I often use several photos. If I've been traveling, for example, in a region, in an area traveling down a highway, um, in an area that I'm not familiar with, and I really, really like what I see in front of me, then I will take a lot of photos. And there's never one photo that gives you all the information that you need. There's always something else from another photo that I often um, there's elements in several photos that I like to put together to create what I'm trying to create.
What would be your favorite piece? The one you really, maybe the one is still in your studio and you don't want to let go because it's never finished.
Well, I've got to say, I don't have a favorite piece that I've got stashed away.
Okay.
Um, the um, the paintings that I've done recently that I like the best um, tend to be, I think they are I've done a series that are ocean sky pictures.
Mhm.
And they were a result of riding down the Pacific Coast Highway. And I really enjoyed pictures that resulted from looking out just at the water and the sky, where there's no landforms. Um,
Mm.
I found huge potential in those kinds of paintings. Um, and I've got a black and white that I've done an underpainting of that I'm looking forward to working with again soon. It's taken me a long time, and it's still very much an evolving process, but it's based on the ocean skies.
Is it
Um,
still pastel?
it's not pastel yet. So
No.
far, it's only acrylic paint.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So you said you were working on birch?
Yes, a birch. It's birch door skin. It's just a very thin eighth of an inch birch. It's very
Mm-hmm.
lightweight, so it's great to work on. And
And
yeah,
why is it great? Is it better than paper? Is it better than the canvas?
it's yes, it's better than canvas because when I get to a pastel layer on top of the paint, then I have to be able to frame it behind glass. Um, And that means when I frame, I don't use mats. With a picture that's say 30 by 30, I don't use a mat at all. I don't like using mats. So I put what's called a spacer all around the edge. You don't see it, but
Yeah.
it lifts the glass off of the painting by 1/8 of an inch, which is just enough.
Okay.
And so when you got the frame and the glass and all the other materials that go into the framing, it's nice to have the substrate as lightweight as possible. So that's why I like birch.
I see.
Yeah.
I would never feel a birch. It's like the Joconde was on wood, and it took me like when I discovered that when I was a teenager, I was like, what? On wood? So kudos to the guy who tried to stab the Joconde and didn't succeed or stab the wood. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I am going to ask you a couple questions, just simple answers and what is on your mind. What would you be your favorite virtue?
My favorite. I'm sorry, could you say that again, please?
Yeah, your favorite virtue.
Virtue.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think of myself as being terribly virtuous. My quality, best quality.
Yeah,
Uh,
quality.
oh,
Quality is
right.
fine.
Yes. Okay, that's got to be determination because there's a lot of failure that happens in artwork, you know, and if you're the kind of person who gives up easy and says, "Nah, I've had enough of this. It's too hard," then it doesn't work out. So I tend to have a lot of determination, which is very good because if I didn't, I would definitely give up because it's sometimes it seems like it takes forever. Sometimes you can go through phases where things just aren't working. Um, and you have to know that, okay, I'm going to go through this. I'm going to see it through. I'm going to let it go for a little while. I know when I come back, things will be better. You have to talk to yourself this way. And still, it's the coming back. You have to have the ability to keep coming back. And I think I have that quality. So I guess that's what's made me hang in this long and keep
So,
working at
follow-up question: what's your tactic when things are getting maybe too confused, or you still like you're lost? You don't know where to go. Do you just drop it and you'll go back later, or is it something that you really have to concentrate and then maybe you focus on the picture and then go back and I have to finish it? What's your method?
Well, I don't react really well when I tell myself you've got to do something. It's I tend to have to back off,
Yeah.
and I put the picture against the wall so I can't see it. I put it out of sight, out of mind, right?
Yeah.
And I go and do something else. I try not to think about it. I'll just try to start something totally new. Something that's nothing to do with the issue I had, whatever that might have been. And I have found that managed to make the break, put the picture against the wall, complete another picture, and then turn the picture back around a little while later, and then I suddenly see something that I didn't notice before.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I never saw that, but there it is. And the solution eventually comes. Now, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes a picture I just decide to let go and I'll gesso it over and use it for something else. This happens too. So you can't be precious about work. If it's going to happen or it's not going to happen. Give it a chance, give it a second chance. And if a picture's had its face to the wall too long, then I'll paint it over and do something else.
Your idea of happiness.
Happiness. Well, I don't think that happiness is a state of being. Reminds me of the Will Smith movie, Pursuit of Happiness. It's something that we can strive for. I don't believe that there is, I'm not of the Buddhist persuasion. There is no sort of nirvana. But the pursuit of happiness, as Will Smith said, is very valid and very motivating. And then once in a while, what we can get is times that I have experienced when watching a sunrise or a sunset, or those little moments that seem to be in between the daytime and the nighttime when time seems to stand still. You get these little moments where you're not thinking in terms of time, of past, of future, of doing, of anything, but it's those times when time stands still, that I guess you could call that happiness, because emotions are involved, and it's always a very positive sense, but it's also a sense of letting go and being involved in the moment. I think those times are special. So having those times sprinkled along the way in a lifetime of pursuit, I think is great. And I'm willing to work with that.
Yeah. Your favorite painter?
Oh, that changes as I go along.
Oh, the one right now, today.
Right now, Wolf Kahn. Wonderful, wonderful, German-born abstract expressionist, but also just a wonderful landscape painter. He was a pastelist, but he was also an oil painter. He died recently, which was very sad indeed. He was he spent most of his time, his life in Connecticut, Rhode Island, the eastern states. But the way he interpreted the landscape was incredible. His sense of color, and what he saw he did most of his work outdoors, but what he saw was completely interpretive. And I'm just spellbound by Wolf Kahn's work. He's an icon for me. In terms of what he achieved in pastel, especially, but also in oils.
What do you hate the most?
Boredom. Yeah, boredom can be very frightening. And it doesn't happen to me much. But yeah, boredom can be a very scary thing. When I stop creating, that can happen. If I'm having to do other things, and I'm having to complete other tasks in my life that don't require the kind of brain work that I'm accustomed to, and I can get bored easily, and that, for me, that's bad.
So I have two more questions.
Sure.
The one now, it's the natural talent you'd like to be gifted with.
Oh, the natural talent.
Yeah, I know.
I wish. No, I could tell myself, I could correct myself after I say this, but I wish I was the kind of painter who could represent what I saw easily and quickly without having to work at it. Now, I can kick myself and say, are you kidding, Francis? Um, there is no such thing. All of those people who you think who look like they can do it so easily, they've been working a lifetime. And look at you. You've only been working since 2006. Seriously. So yeah, I know but there are some painters who are genuinely gifted. Portrait artists. I admire portrait artists so much who are able to capture a likeness. Like, that is a very special gift. I know there's a lot of mechanics in portraiture, but oh, I would love to have that kind of skill.
And what is your present state of mind?
My present state of mind, I'm well. There's a thing that happens when you finish a show. I feel like I've just put up a show. Well, I have. It's online. It's not the real show, but it's there. And I have a sense of completion now because it's there and it's done and everything's framed and it's been presented. I have a feeling that right now I am very excited about moving forward to the next thing. And I think it'll be something to do with ocean skies, but it might not. You mentioned collage before. I was working with some aerial photographs, which I took myself from flights I've been on, and particularly of this local area. I got some very unusual compositions that happened as a result of looking down on the Peace region from the air. And I'm playing with those, using multimedia, using collage, using paint, using a variety of media. And so I've done one. I'm looking forward to see how others might turn out, whether it can turn into a series or not. But that, and also the ocean skies, paintings which come from a place where there is nothing but the air and the water. It's the fluid elements that really seem to stimulate my imagination. And I'm looking forward to inviting more abstraction into my work too.
Okay.
Going further with that.
Why is that? Is there a reason? More abstraction?
Abstraction is a way of communicating the inner life of a scene. There is so much more than, if we're looking at a landscape, there's so much more to a scene than what we see in front of us in terms of the physical elements of the scene. There is an emotional, a sensual reality which exists, which grabs us, which is the reason why we want to paint that scene. And being able to interpret the emotional life of the scene, the unspoken communication that happens between myself and a scene. I know I'm sounding a little loopy here, but it's an inner life. We have an inner life. We have inner senses, which are very much alive. I believe that the skies, all of nature also has that life force. And I know a lot of other people believe this too. I'd like to communicate that eventually without the necessity of the physical form.
And so this is why
So that's where abstraction comes in.
That's where abstraction comes in.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
it'll take me a while to get there, I know.
Yeah. Well, keep us in the loop. For sure, we're going to be really happy when we'll be able to go back. We don't know how. Maybe that would be only restricting the number of people in the gallery, but as soon as we can, you'll be on our walls. A
I'm
last
looking
word?
forward to it.
Yeah, looking forward. And a last word for us tonight?
Well, Baptiste, I just really want to thank you for this opportunity.
You're
It's been
welcome.
wonderful to talk about my work with you. And I'm so happy to see Sue's smiling face on the screen with us there. It's great to have her with us, and I would like to think in spirit. At any rate, it's great to discuss art. I always love discussing art, and it's been wonderful being able to talk to you about my work. I do appreciate it.
Well, we really appreciate the insight, and we hope that if anybody has starting with a pastel and feel something that would be able to reach us, and we can link the two.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Baptiste.